had prepared a surprise for my husband, a bouquet of flowers and tickets for a flight to Paris, intending to present them at his office for Valentine's Day. However, upon arrival, I discovered the entire company was in the midst of celebrating his engagement to the female CEO. My husband, in full view of everyone, kissed her and then presented a diamond ring to widespread applause. I simply turned and left. Without hesitation, I canceled our trip, secured all our joint financial assets, and divested my 83% share of the company, a stake valued at $558 million. 30 minutes later, my phone displayed 152 missed calls. Soon after, the doorbell rang. I delayed opening it, standing in the hallway of our Westport, Connecticut residence, still wearing my coat, my purse slung over my shoulder. Behind me, on the kitchen island, lay the wilted Valentine flowers. They were wrapped in substantial cream-colored paper, adorned with a red satin ribbon, the sort of overtly romantic presentation Jake had always claimed to admire, citing its old-fashioned charm. I had purchased them that very morning from a small florist near the train station, along with a handwritten card. After 14 years of marriage, I still believed that love necessitated demonstrable effort. Tucked within that card were the first-class plane tickets to Paris, scheduled for departure Friday evening. The plan included a 4-night stay at a quaint hotel near the Seine, in the very neighborhood where Jake and I had spent our honeymoon, long before his suits became bespoke and his name began appearing in business publications, before people instinctively straightened up in his presence. That morning, I had envisioned his reaction upon seeing the tickets. By noon, I had witnessed his reaction to kissing another woman. The doorbell rang again, this time more insistently. Then, Jake's voice, somewhat muffled by the solid front door, reached me. "Emma, please open the door." I glanced at my phone. Another call from him lit up the screen, displaying a photograph I had never bothered to update. Jake, in a navy sweater, beaming at me from the deck of our first home, before the silver began to appear at his temples, before the expensive watch, before ambition had hardened into a sense of entitlement. I let the call go unanswered. "Emma, I know you're in there," he pleaded, his voice cracking. "Please, just talk to me. Talk." It struck me as profoundly ironic how small that word sounded after the scene I had just witnessed. At precisely 11:42 that morning, I had walked into the gleaming lobby of Harlow Reed Technologies, holding a floral arrangement in one hand and a slim black envelope in the other. The building was a spectacle of glass and natural light, featuring polished concrete floors, interior living walls, and a reception desk that resembled that of an upscale hotel rather than a corporate headquarters. I hadn't frequented the office much in recent years, partly due to a preference for privacy, and partly because Jake had subtly cultivated an environment where the company was perceived solely as his domain, not ours. Despite this, I had anticipated some level of recognition, perhaps not from the new receptionist, a young woman with impeccably applied eyeliner and a headset, but surely from someone in operations or finance, someone who had been there long enough to recall when the company consisted of just 12 individuals in a rented space above a dental clinic in Stamford. Instead, the receptionist barely looked up. "Are you here for the celebration?" she asked with a cheerful tone. I smiled, assuming Jake had organized a Valentine's Day event for his staff. He was adept at such public displays, the effusive gestures, the champagne toasts, the carefully orchestrated speeches, the performative generosity. "I suppose I am," I replied. She gestured towards the atrium. "They're just getting started." The sound of applause reached me before I saw the gathering. Approximately 200 employees were assembled beneath the vast skylight, clustered around a modest platform adorned with white roses and gold balloons. Someone had arranged for a violinist, while another employee was recording the proceedings on a phone. The company's emblem glowed prominently behind the stage. Standing beneath it was Amanda Blake, the new CEO Jake had appointed 18 months prior. I had met her once at a charity gala. She was intelligent, sophisticated, and nearly a decade younger than me, with a sharp blonde bob and an air of quiet confidence that led people to conflate her striking appearance with her capabilities, though she possessed both. Jake stood beside her. He wore his characteristic public smile, broad and practiced, one hand resting near his jacket button, as if he had been born under a spotlight. Then he dropped to one knee. The room erupted. For a fleeting moment, my mind refused to process what my eyes were seeing. I considered it a prank, a company jest, some absurd morale-boosting exercise. But then Amanda covered her mouth with both hands, her eyes brimming with tears, as Jake opened a velvet box. The diamonds sparkled, the exact cut I had once confessed to loving. The crowd cheered as Amanda nodded. Jake slipped the ring onto her finger. He then stood, cradled her face, and kissed her. It wasn't a tentative kiss, nor an accidental one, nor a moment of confusion. A man does not kiss another woman in such a manner unless he has already rehearsed betraying his wife countless times in his mind. I felt the bouquet slip lower in my grasp. A woman standing near me whispered, "Can you believe it? They're perfect together." Perfect. That single word finally caused Jake to turn. His eyes found mine across the expanse of the atrium, and for a fraction of a second, all the ambient noise seemed to collapse inward. His smile vanished, his face drained of color. He knew I had witnessed everything, and still he made no move towards me. He did not utter my name, he did not step off that platform. Amanda followed his gaze and regarded me with a look of polite bewilderment, the kind a hostess might offer a guest she couldn't quite place. "I'm sorry," she mouthed, her tone almost gentle. "Do we know each other?" That was the moment of full comprehension. Jake hadn't merely been unfaithful, he had effectively erased me. I turned away before my dignity could be further eroded in front of strangers. No one attempted to detain me as I retraced my steps through the lobby. The receptionist offered another smile, still oblivious, still cheerful, and chirped, "Have a wonderful Valentine's Day." I reached the parking garage before my hands began to tremble. I sat in my car, the flowers on the passenger seat, the Paris envelope resting on my lap, and listened to the faint, lingering echo of applause trapped in my ears. I could have screamed. I could have stormed back inside. I could have hurled those roses at his face in front of the entire company, providing the spectacle they were already avidly anticipating. But rage, when it purifies itself, often becomes quiet. I opened my phone. My first action was to cancel the Paris trip. Next, I contacted the bank and froze every joint account requiring mutual authorization under our marital asset agreement. Following that, I called our attorney, Martin Keller, who had previously represented my father. "Emma," he said, his tone laced with concern upon hearing my voice, "what has happened?" "My husband just became engaged," I stated, directing my words to his CEO. A profound silence ensued, so complete I could discern his breathing. Then Martin replied, "I'm on my way to the office." "No," I interjected, "start with the holding company." Another pause. "Are you certain?" I gazed through the windshield at the elevator doors, half expecting Jake to emerge, breathless and contrite. He never did. "Yes," I affirmed. "Withdraw the entire position, Emma. That will trigger a capital event. I'm aware it will freeze their credit line. I suspect it may jeopardize the pending acquisition." Martin fell silent. I pressed my thumb against the edge of the Paris envelope until the cardstock bit into my skin. "Do it." By the time I reached home, the first call came in, then the second, then 15, then 50. By the time I arrived at the house, Jake had called 152 times. Now he stood on our porch, ringing the doorbell with an urgency that suggested he was trying to rouse the deceased. "Emma," he repeated, "please, I can explain." I approached the door slowly and peered through the side window. He was still in the same suit. His tie was askew, his hair disheveled, his face glistening with perspiration despite the biting February cold. Behind him, parked at an angle in the driveway, sat his black company car, as if he had abandoned it before it had fully stopped. For the first time all day, Jake appeared like a man who understood that repercussions could indeed move faster than excuses. I opened the door only partially. His gaze dropped to my face, then to my coat, and then moved past me towards the kitchen, where the flowers lay like mute witnesses. "Emma," he whispered, "it wasn't what it looked like." I stared at him, and for a single, agonizingly, almost comical moment, I realized that even now, he believed the infidelity was the core issue. He had no conception that the empire was already crumbling around him. "Then tell me," I said calmly, "what exactly did it look like?" He opened his mouth, but no words came out. Behind him, his phone began to ring again. Not mine, his. He glanced down at the screen, and whatever name appeared there caused his face to fall. I knew before he spoke. The board had been informed. Jake looked down at his phone, the color draining from his face with an almost satisfying swiftness. Not a satisfaction of malice, the sort one might imagine revenge to entail, but a quieter kind. The kind of quiet relief one feels when a long, unlocked door is finally secured. He silenced the call without answering. "Emma," he said, stepping closer, "we need to talk inside." "No," I replied. His eyes flickered towards the street. Our neighbors' houses were visible beyond the stark branches of the maple trees, their porch lights casting a warm glow against the gray Valentine's evening. Westport was a town where people feigned ignorance while observing everything. Jake understood this better than anyone. For years, he had meticulously cultivated the persona of a devoted husband, a visionary entrepreneur, a man who never forgot birthdays and sent Christmas baskets to even casual acquaintances. Being observed begging on my doorstep would not align with his carefully constructed brand. "Please," he implored, lowering his voice, "I made a mistake." "A mistake is forgetting an anniversary," I countered. "A mistake is missing a flight. You proposed to another woman in front of 200 employees." His jaw tightened. "It got out of hand." I almost laughed. That was Jake's gift, and perhaps his curse. He could imbue any catastrophe with the casualness of weather. An event that simply occurred, something that arrived unexpectedly, a storm, not a deliberate choice. "When did it get out of hand?" I inquired. "Before or after the ring," he swallowed. Behind him, his phone buzzed again. This time, he glanced at it and shielded the screen. But I saw enough. Martin Keller, my lawyer. Jake registered my awareness. "What have you done?" he whispered. I leaned against the doorframe, and for the first time since stepping into that glass atrium, my trembling ceased. I protected what belongs to me. His expression shifted. The panic sharpened into calculation, a look I recognized from years of observing him across conference tables, when a deal began to veer in a direction he could no longer control. "Emma, you can't simply withdraw capital like that," he stated. "There are procedures, there are obligations, there are clauses," I corrected. "And you signed them?" He stared at me as if I had suddenly begun speaking a language he once knew, but had long since forgotten through sheer arrogance. 14 years earlier, when Harlow Reed was nothing more than a nascent software platform, a folding table, and a name I had scribbled on a legal pad at 2 in the morning, Jake hadn't spoken of obligations. Back then, he spoke of dreams. He spoke of creating something that would enhance hospital systems, enable doctors to access critical patient data more rapidly, and prevent small clinics from succumbing to outdated software. He possessed charisma, and I possessed the technical expertise. He could captivate an audience, and I could construct what he was selling. We had once been a formidable team. That's the aspect people often fail to grasp about betrayal. It doesn't always commence with a villain and a victim. Sometimes it begins with two weary individuals sharing takeout on the floor of a rented office, laughing because the Wi-Fi has gone out yet again. Sometimes the person who devastates you is the same person who believed in you when no one else did. My father had been the initial investor, not out of faith in Jake, but out of faith in me. After his passing, his shares were transferred to a family holding company. Over the subsequent years, through various funding rounds, buybacks, and meticulously structured agreements, that holding company came to control 83% of Harlow Reed. Jake was, of course, fully aware of this. He knew it when he requested that I abstain from public-facing roles, citing, as he put it, that investors are more comfortable with a singular operational voice. He knew it when he persuaded me that my privacy was an asset, allowing me to shape strategy from the board level while he managed media appearances, conferences, and celebratory toasts. He knew it every time a magazine referred to him as the founder, and I allowed it, telling myself that marriage was not a competition. However, knowing a fact and respecting it are two vastly different propositions. "You're angry," he said, attempting to inject a softness into his voice. "I understand that. You have every right to be angry." "No," I responded. "I have every right to know my husband was living as an unmarried man at his workplace." His face flinched. "Good. Amanda didn't know," he added quickly. That surprised me, though I made no outward show of it. "Didn't know what?" He glanced towards the driveway, then back at me. "About us? Not really." "Not really," I echoed. I told her we were separated. A coldness, sharp and precise, coursed through me. I recalled Amanda's polite, puzzled smile, her whispered question, "Do we know each other?" It wasn't said cruelly or smugly, but with genuine incomprehension that the woman holding Valentine's roses was the wife of the man she had agreed to marry. "You told her we were separated," I stated, "while you slept in my bed every night." Jake closed his eyes. "Emma, while I hosted your mother for Thanksgiving." "I know. While we renewed the lake house insurance together last month." "I know. While you kissed me goodbye this morning." His eyes snapped open, and for a fleeting moment, I saw the man from years ago, the one who abhorred disappointing me. But that vision was almost instantly swallowed by fear. "The board is overreacting," he asserted. "This can be managed." There it was again. Managed, not repaired. I stepped back from the doorway and retrieved the black envelope from the console table. I had brought it inside from the car without conscious thought, and now I held it between two fingers. "These were for Paris," I said. His eyes fell to the envelope. A fleeting expression akin to grief crossed his face, but it arrived too late to hold any significance. "I wanted to surprise you," I continued. "I thought we needed a few days away. I assumed you had been distant due to the acquisition, the stress, all the things you always claimed were temporary." "It was complicated," he offered. "No," I countered. "Software integration is complicated. Marriage is difficult. Lying is simple." He looked at me then, wounded by the starkness of my words. Another car turned onto our street. Jake instinctively moved closer to the door, attempting to shield himself from the headlights. I remained still. The car's lights swept past. His phone buzzed again, then mine. I looked down and saw a message from Martin. "Emergency board meeting scheduled for 7:30 p.m. They are requesting your presence via video. Do not speak to Jake about corporate matters." I turned the phone towards Jake just long enough for him to read the first line. His mouth fell open. "Emma, don't do this tonight." "I didn't do it tonight," I replied. "You did." He ran a hand through his hair, and suddenly, he appeared older than his 46 years, not distinguished, merely tired and cornered. "If I'm removed, the company destabilizes," he stated. "People lose their jobs. Good people, people with mortgages, families." "That is the first honest thing you've said," I retorted, "and it should have mattered to you before you turned their workplace into your engagement party." He had no response. For years, Jake had relied on evasion. If a conversation became uncomfortable, he would retreat to another room. If a question became too pointed, he would take a call. If I inquired about his emotional distance, he would blame deadlines. But now he stood on a porch with nowhere to retreat, and the life he had meticulously compartmentalized into separate rooms had finally converged into a single house. "Does Amanda know now?" I inquired. His silence provided the answer. I nodded. "Then go explain it to her." "Emma, please." I began to close the door. He reached out, not touching me, but close enough that I observed the tremor in his hand. "Are you divorcing me?" I paused. The word should have felt momentous. Instead, it felt procedural, like labeling a document that had already been implicitly drafted by years of subtle humiliations I had chosen to overlook. "Yes," I replied. His face contorted, but only for a second. Then fear reasserted itself. "And the company?" I looked at him through the diminishing gap between us. "The company," I stated, "was never yours." With that, I closed the door, locked it, and stood there while he knocked once, twice, then ceased. A minute later, his car door slammed shut. Through the window, I watched him settle behind the wheel without starting the engine. His shoulders slumped, his phone pressed to his ear. I had no idea whether he was calling Amanda, the board, or another attorney. For the first time in 14 years, it no longer mattered to me. At 7:30, I sat at my kitchen table, dressed in a navy sweater, a glass of water beside me, and Martin's face glowing on my laptop screen. One by one, the board members joined the call, each appearing stunned, cautious, and professionally apprehensive. Then Jake appeared. He was no longer on my porch. He was in his office, bathed in the light of the Manhattan skyline visible through the floor-to-ceiling windows, beneath the framed magazine cover proclaiming him the man who revolutionized medical data. His camera activated. He looked directly at me, and every individual in that meeting finally grasped that the woman they had treated as a mere footnote was the sole reason they still possessed a company to salvage. The board meeting commenced without the customary pleasantries. No one inquired about weekend activities. No one commented on the weather. Even the company's general counsel, who typically broke the ice at the beginning of difficult discussions with an awkward joke, simply cleared his throat and called the meeting to order. Jake sat alone in the executive conference room, the Manhattan skyline a radiant backdrop through the expansive windows. His tie was absent. The top button of his shirt was undone. For a man who had spent years perfecting every public appearance, he suddenly appeared remarkably ordinary. Martin sat beside me at my kitchen table. "Emma," he said quietly before anyone else spoke, "answer only what you are asked." I nodded. The chairman of the board adjusted his spectacles. "We have received notification," he began carefully, "that Carter Family Holdings has withdrawn its equity commitment and suspended all discretionary capital support, effective immediately." No one directed their gaze towards Jake. All eyes were on me. "Mrs. Carter," the chairman continued, "can you confirm the authenticity of this notice?" "Yes." "And that Carter Family Holdings remains the beneficial owner of 83% of Harlow Reed Technologies?" "Yes." The ensuing silence seemed to stretch into eternity. Several directors were aware of the ownership structure on paper, but ownership documents and the practical reality were entirely different matters. For years, Jake had become the de facto face of the company. Employees quoted him, investors photographed him, reporters hailed him as the founder. Somewhere along the line, people began to equate visibility with ownership. Jake, most of all, had come to believe it. He leaned towards his camera. "Emma, please don't make permanent decisions based on today's emotions." Martin placed a hand lightly over my legal pad, a silent reminder to refrain from emotional responses. "I made no decisions today," I responded calmly. "I executed rights that have existed for years." Jake closed his eyes momentarily. The chairman turned towards him. "Jake, is there anything you need to disclose before we proceed?" A prolonged pause. Finally, Jake spoke. "My personal situation has become complicated." "Complicated?" one director repeated, his tone flat. Another board member, Linda Foster, clasped her hands on the table. "Did you represent yourself within this company as unmarried?" Jake hesitated. "Yes." "Were you, in fact, married?" "Yes." "Were members of the executive leadership aware of your marriage?" "No." The room fell into a heavy silence. No one seemed concerned about Jake's infidelity. There was profound concern regarding the chief executive officer's concealment of significant personal truths while engaging in a highly visible relationship with another senior executive within the organization. Corporate stewardship had abruptly transitioned into a legal quandary. The general counsel addressed the assembly next. "Considering these revelations, my recommendation is to place Mr. Carter on immediate administrative leave pending an impartial inquiry." Jake's gaze locked onto the camera lens. "You cannot be serious." The chairman let out a weary sigh. "I wish we weren't." By 8:30 that evening, the news had yet to breach the media, but within the confines of Harlow Reed, awareness had permeated every level. Corporate whispers propagated with far greater swiftness than any official communique. Someone observed Jake exiting the executive suite, a cardboard container in his grasp. Another noted Amanda's office door remaining resolutely shut. Security discreetly deactivated Jake's executive access credentials. The photograph circulated through private employee communication channels within moments. No one ventured to post anything publicly. Not yet. The following morning, I awoke after obtaining a mere 3 hours of slumber. For the first time in years, Jake was not by my side. The quietude felt foreign. Not lonely, simply unfamiliar. I prepared coffee, tended to our aging golden retriever Murphy, and stood by the kitchen casement, observing children awaiting their school bus. The world outside continued its rhythm, precisely as it always had. This realization served to anchor me. My personal universe had been irrevocably fractured. That of everyone else remained intact. At 9:15, Martin arrived, bearing 2 substantial file folders. "The financial institutions have responded," he stated. I invited him in. "They've halted the acquisition financing," he elaborated. "That was anticipated," I acknowledged. "They are posing inquiries regarding whether Carter Family Holdings intends to maintain its investment following any restructuring." I surveyed the folders without unsealing them. "What was your response?" I inquired. "The truth," he replied, a faint smile gracing his lips. "I informed them the proprietor still holds conviction in the company's potential." This statement surprised me. He perceived my astonishment. "You never harbored a desire to dismantle Harlow Reed," he observed. "No, you sought to prevent one individual from falsely claiming ownership of what you established." "Precisely," I confirmed. "People invariably envision retribution as wholesale destruction. At times, retribution manifests as the refusal to permit someone to continue appropriating credit for one's own creations." Around midday, my mobile device vibrated. Amanda Blake. I studied her name for several seconds before responding. "Hello." Her voice bore no resemblance to its cadence during board sessions. It was subdued, almost vulnerable. "I realize I likely have no right to contact you." "No," I responded candidly. "You probably do not." She accepted this. "I was unaware. I believe you." She exhaled sharply, as if she had been suppressing her breath all morning. "He informed me he had been separated for nearly 2 years." "I am aware." "He stated the divorce proceedings were delayed due to the division of assets." "I am aware." "He showed me a lease agreement for an apartment." This gave me pause. "What apartment?" A silence ensued. Then Amanda replied, "He leased an apartment downtown." I gazed blankly at the wall. Jake had leased an additional residence, not for habitation, but to perpetuate a falsehood. Every late meeting, every overnight strategic planning session, every business excursion that concluded too late for the return journey home. There had consistently been an alternative destination, not due to a requirement for a separate existence, but to fabricate evidence of one. "I feel unwell," Amanda whispered. "You ought to. I never would have." "I know," her voice cracked. "I am so very sorry. For the first time since Valentine's Day, I detected genuine contrition from someone entangled in this catastrophe." "I accept your apology," I stated. "However, regret does not rectify what transpired." "No," she paused. "Will you ever extend forgiveness?" I once again looked out the window. "I do not know you well enough to offer forgiveness." She did not contest my statement. Instead, she quietly remarked, "That is reasonable." Later that afternoon, Martin contacted me again. "We have discovered something." His tone immediately captured my attention. "What?" "Old authorization records." I drove to his office. He unfurled dozens of documents across the conference table: expense approvals, equity transfer declarations, investment authorizations. At first glance, they appeared routine. Then Martin indicated several signatures. "They are yours." I frowned. "No, they are exceptionally well-executed facsimiles." A knot formed in my stomach. "I never affixed my signature to these." "I am aware." He placed another document alongside them. My authentic signature. The distinction became evident, minute, almost imperceptible, yet undeniable. Jake had not merely violated our marriage. Someone had been fraudulently replicating my signature on corporate documentation for years. Martin interlaced his fingers. "We are engaging forensic analysts to scrutinize every executive authorization from the preceding 5 years." "How many?" "Hundreds." I slowly reclined in my chair. Every emotion I had harbored since Valentine's Day underwent a shift. Until that precise moment, I had perceived the narrative as one of marital infidelity. Now it was evolving into something considerably more substantial: corporate malfeasance, fraud, potential criminal culpability. Martin regarded me intently. "Emma, yes, you must prepare yourself." "For what?" "If the investigation substantiates our suspicions," he paused, "Jake is not merely going to forfeit his marriage." I completed his sentence for him. "He is going to lose everything." Martin offered no reply. It was unnecessary. The evidence spread across the conference table already spoke volumes. As I contemplated the spurious signatures bearing my name, I grasped a chilling realization, far more profound than anything experienced at the engagement party. Jake had not transgressed a single boundary. He had been consistently breaching them for years. Valentine's Day had not precipitated the disaster. It had merely brought it to light. The subsequent 48 hours unfolded with the chilling efficiency of a well-oiled mechanism. Martin engaged a forensic accounting firm from New York, the caliber that abstains from unnecessary inquiries and shuns dramatic language unless a document warrants it. They established their operations within a secured conference room at Harlow Reed. Access was restricted by badge, the blinds were drawn, and laptops were deployed alongside banker boxes filled with antiquated authorizations, board meeting minutes, wire transfer approvals, and executive compensation filings. I refrained from visiting the office. This was a deliberate choice. If I were to enter the building prematurely, individuals would likely reframe the investigation as a personal conflict between a wife and her husband. I desired no gossip, no hushed conversations in hallways concerning retribution, no pretext for Jake to assert that my actions stemmed from heartbreak rather than concrete evidence. Consequently, I remained at home, fielding questions through Martin, and allowed the professionals to perform the task that Jake had consistently underestimated. They meticulously followed the paper trail. By the third day, they identified the pattern. It was not a singular forged signature, nor even a handful. It was an intricate system. My name had been employed to sanction temporary executive loans, approve exaggerated travel reimbursements, and expedite vendor contracts with individuals known personally to Jake. None of these transgressions were egregious enough to immediately flag as outright fraud. This was precisely what rendered them so perilous. The scheme was sophisticated, layered, and couched in corporate jargon sufficiently aseptic to pass unchallenged through busy intermediaries. However, deception invariably deteriorates with time. Every document bore a timestamp. Every approval contained metadata. Every transaction left an indelible trace. At 18 minutes past 6 on Thursday evening, Martin contacted me. "Emma," he stated, "we have sufficient evidence." I was standing in my laundry room, folding one of Jake's white dress shirts, as habit sometimes represents the final vestige of affection to dissipate. I glanced down at the shirt in my hands, at the monogram on the cuff, and abruptly felt a sense of foolishness for handling it. "Sufficient for the board?" I inquired. "Sufficient for the board, sufficient for civil litigation, and potentially sufficient for referral to federal authorities." I closed my eyes. For a fleeting second, I wished the truth had been less consequential. Then I recalled Jake's embrace with Amanda beneath the skylight, while 200 individuals applauded a fabrication. "Then transmit it," I declared. The emergency board meeting was convened for the ensuing morning. This time, Jake was not summoned in his capacity as chief executive. He was summoned as the focal point of the investigation. Amanda appeared on the video conference from her office, her complexion pale, but her demeanor composed. She had voluntarily stepped aside from all decision-making responsibilities connected to Jake, a decision the board had accepted. She offered no defense. She did not implicate me. When the chairman inquired whether she had been aware of Jake's marital status, she responded clearly, "No." He informed me he had been separated for 2 years. "And did he ever disclose that Mrs. Carter held majority ownership of the company?" Amanda glanced downward momentarily. "No, he told me his wife had no operational involvement and that the ownership structure was a matter of old family documentation." The phrase resonated with considerable weight. Old family documentation. That was the reduction of my father's investment, my years of diligent effort, and my prolonged silence, too. Subsequently, the forensic accountants commenced their presentation. They did not raise their voices. It was unnecessary. They presented signatures, metadata, wire transfer confirmations, lease agreements, and executive expense reports. They detailed the apartment Jake had leased downtown and categorized it as a strategic client hospitality suite. They exhibited purchases of jewelry classified as investor relations gifts. They revealed private travel booked through corporate accounts, weekends that Amanda had perceived as business retreats because Jake had meticulously constructed each falsehood with just enough documentation to imbue it with an appearance of legitimacy. Amanda covered her mouth once and only once. Jake remained inert. When he finally spoke, his voice sounded reedy. This is being taken out of context. The lead investigator, a woman named Denise Lell, adjusted her spectacles. Mr. Carter, metadata does not possess context. It possesses timestamps. No one smiled, but I nearly did. Jake attempted anew. I possess the authority to act on behalf of the company. You had operational authority, Denise stated. You did not possess the authority to forge Mrs. Carter's signature. His gaze then shifted to me, and for the first time, a flicker of anger was discernible beneath the apprehension. You are relishing this, he accused. I felt every countenance on the call swivel toward me. I could have denied his assertion. Instead, I articulated the truth with careful deliberation. No, Jake, I am not relishing this. I am enduring it. His response was silence. By midday, the board unanimously resolved to terminate Jake for cause, revoke all unvested equity compensation, and refer the findings to external legal counsel for civil recovery proceedings. His name would be expunged from all active corporate materials until the matter was adjudicated. Amanda would remain on administrative leave pending the completion of her own ethical review, although preliminary findings indicated she had been misled rather than complicit. It was not a dramatic spectacle. There was no shouting, no one hurled a glass. The retribution manifested through signatures, votes, and frozen accounts. And somehow, this methodical process lent it a sense of completeness. That afternoon, Amanda requested a personal meeting. I was on the verge of refusing. Then, I recalled the expression on her face when she learned about the apartment, and I realized there remained one conversation that Jake did not have the power to dictate. We convened at a modest coffee establishment in Fairfield, a considerable distance from the office and from any locale where we might be recognized. Amanda arrived first. She wore minimal or no makeup, and the diamond ring was conspicuously absent from her hand. As I settled into the seat opposite her, she rose. "I am sorry," she stated. "You have already conveyed that. I know, but I need to express it while looking directly at you." I scrutinized her features and detected no arrogance, no triumph, no trace of the woman on the platform accepting accolades. Only profound humiliation, the unadulterated, harsh kind. "I believed him," she confessed. "That is not an excuse, it is simply the truth." "I understand. He made me feel chosen." That sentence inflicted more pain than I had anticipated, for I comprehended its sentiment. Jake had always possessed an uncanny ability to make a woman feel as though the very atmosphere had realigned itself around her. Amanda lowered her gaze to her hands. "When I saw you in the atrium, I presumed you were an investor's spouse, or perhaps someone from a charitable board. I was unaware I was observing the woman whose existence I was occupying." For a period, neither of us spoke. Then I remarked, "He deceived both of us, Amanda, but he married me. His primary obligation was to me." She nodded, tears welling in her eyes. I could have harbored animosity towards her. A part of me desired to. Hatred would have been simpler than confronting the uncomfortable truth that the other woman was not invariably a villain. At times, she is merely another individual standing amidst the wreckage, clutching a different fragment of the same deception. "I will not shield you from the consequences," I stated. "I am not requesting that you do, but I will not penalize you for what he alone perpetrated." Her eyes lifted to meet mine. That was not forgiveness, not yet, but it was a form of justice. 3 nights later, Jake returned to the residence. This time, he did not repeatedly ring the doorbell. He knocked once, then paused. Through the window, I observed a man who bore no resemblance to the husband to whom I had presented flowers on Valentine's Day. His coat was rumpled, his face was unshaven. The inherent confidence had evaporated, and in its absence he appeared diminished, almost a stranger. I opened the door, but kept the security chain engaged. He glanced at the chain, then at me. "I deserve that," he stated. "Yes," I replied. He swallowed. "I lost the company." "No," I corrected. "You lost the illusion that it was yours." His eyes brimmed with moisture, but I did not soften. Not out of a desire to inflict suffering, but because I had spent too many years tempering every harsh reality until he could circumvent it. "I am not here to ask you to halt the investigation," he announced. "Good. I am not here to ask you to take me back." "Good." He nodded slowly, as if each word exacted a significant toll. I came to express my regret. The former Emma would have reached for the door. The former Emma would have mistaken remorse for reconciliation. However, the woman standing here now had witnessed far too much conflagration to mistake smoke for warmth. "Are you regretful because you caused me pain?" I inquired, "or because your own life has imploded?" Jake looked down. For a considerable duration, he remained silent. Then, in a hushed tone, he responded, "I no longer know." And that was the first truthful utterance he had made since Valentine's Day. Jake remained on the porch for another moment, anticipating a pronouncement from me that would render the future less daunting. I offered none. The silence between us no longer resonated with resentment. It belonged to truth. Finally, he offered a nod. "I understand." I was uncertain if he truly did. However, for the first time in a considerable period, comprehension was no longer my responsibility. I closed the door gently, not with anger, and watched through the adjacent glass as he walked back to his vehicle. He did not look back. His shoulders were stooped, his hands buried in his coat pockets, moving like a man who had spent years ascending towards a summit, only to realize he had been navigating with an incorrect map. Murphy ambled into the foyer and rested his head against my leg. I gently stroked behind his ears and whispered, "I believe we will be all right." For the first time since Valentine's Day, I genuinely believed it. The divorce proceedings spanned months, as is typically the case with genuine divorces. There were extensive financial disclosures, property valuations, depositions, and a volume of paperwork that neither of us had anticipated. Owing to the prenuptial agreement and the ownership structure that predated our marriage, the legal process proved remarkably straightforward. Emotionally, however, no aspect of it felt simple. Jake never contested my ownership of Harlow Reed. He could not. The documentation had been in existence for years, and the investigation had definitively dispelled any illusion that the company belonged to another party. The civil claims pertaining to the forged signatures proceeded through separate legal representation. These matters were ultimately resolved through negotiated settlements, financial restitution, and permanent restrictions on Jake's ability to serve as an officer of any entity governed by the involved agreements. It was a difficult outcome for him, yet it was also the direct consequence of choices made repeatedly over an extended period, rather than a singular catastrophic afternoon. Justice, I learned, seldom arrives instantaneously. It arrives in meticulously paginated documents. Amanda concluded her ethics review. The independent investigators found no evidence suggesting her participation in the fraudulent documentation or her personal gain from the financial misconduct. Her most significant error had been placing her trust in the man she loved. The board reinstated her as CEO 6 weeks later. Before accepting, she contacted me. "I will not assume the position," she stated, "if you believe I should not." I valued her inquiry far more than she likely realized. "You have earned the role," I responded. "But given everything, given all that has transpired," I interrupted gently, "do not squander the opportunity to perform it with integrity." She remained silent. "I do not anticipate us becoming friends." "Nor do I," I replied. "But I hope that one day you will believe that I never coveted your life." I gazed out the window at the initial signs of spring emerging from the frozen flower beds. I already believed that. As we concluded our conversation, I realized that forgiveness had arrived unannounced. Not complete forgiveness, certainly not the kind that erases all scars, but sufficient to relinquish the burden of carrying someone else's culpability. The board extended an offer for me to assume the role of CEO. For years, this had appeared to be the logical progression. In earlier times, I might have accepted without a moment's hesitation. Instead, I surprised everyone, including myself. No. The chairman blinked in astonishment. You built this company. Yes, and I own it. Indeed. Then why? I offered a smile. Because ownership and purpose are not always synonymous. I accepted the position of executive chair instead, dedicating my focus to long-term strategic direction while entrusting daily operations to Amanda. This was the arrangement I should have elected years prior, not due to a deficiency in my capacity for public leadership, but because leadership is most effective when it accurately reflects one's true identity rather than conforming to the expectations of others. For the first time in years, the company felt imbued with honesty. 3 months subsequent to Valentine's Day, I discovered the envelope containing the Paris tickets tucked away within a drawer in my desk. The flights had long since been canceled. The hotel reservation had expired. The small, handwritten card I had prepared for Jake remained folded inside. I read it once. Then, with a sorrowful smile, I placed it into the paper shredder. Not out of anger, but out of acceptance. That evening, I opened my laptop and booked a new journey. The same city, a different hotel, a single ticket. Paris welcomed me with warm sunshine and cafes spilling onto narrow pedestrian walkways. I ambled without a predetermined itinerary. I lingered in bookstores where my comprehension of the language was only partial. I sat by the Seine with a cup of coffee that grew cold as I found myself observing people rather than drinking it. On my second evening, I traversed the Pont des Arts just as the sky began to glow with golden hues. Years earlier, Jake and I had stood there, exchanging vows about our future. This time, I made a solitary promise to myself. Never mistake being needed for being valued. They are fundamentally distinct concepts. Nearly a year later, Harlow Reed announced a new investment initiative dedicated to supporting early-stage healthcare technology enterprises founded by women and underrepresented entrepreneurs. The concept had resided within one of my notebooks for nearly a decade. Now, we had finally brought it to fruition. At the launch event, Amanda introduced the program. She conveyed her gratitude to the board. She thanked our employees. Then, unexpectedly, she expressed her appreciation to me. Some individuals construct companies, she stated. Others cultivate environments where truth ultimately holds greater significance than appearances. We are here today because Emma Carter refused to compromise either. The subsequent applause resonated with a distinctly different quality than the ovation I had witnessed on Valentine's Day. That applause had celebrated an illusion. This one honored integrity. The distinction was profound. A few weeks later, I received a handwritten letter. Not an email, not a text message, but a tangible letter. It was from Jake. He conveyed that he had accepted a managerial position at a small regional software company in Vermont. It was not a glamorous role. No magazine features, no keynote addresses, no executive corner office. He wrote that each morning he unlocked the office himself, brewed coffee for the staff, and departed each evening with a clear understanding of his title's true meaning: employee. He reiterated his apology, not for losing the company, nor for forfeiting his reputation, but for spending years believing that success entitled him to disregard the commitments he had made to those who cherished him most. At the foot of the page, he inscribed a final sentence: "I hope one day I become someone worthy of the forgiveness I sought." I folded the letter and placed it into a box containing old photographs, not out of a desire to revisit the past, but because to pretend it never occurred would offer no lessons. Certain chapters are meant to remain permanently closed. These individuals ought not to be forgotten. Individuals occasionally inquire if retribution offered me tranquility. The truthful response is in the negative. Retribution conferred upon me equity. Tranquility arrived subsequently. Tranquility manifested on the day I ceased to evaluate my forthcoming existence based on another's perfidy. Jake's marital union disintegrated because he prioritized deceit over candor. His professional life vanished because he favored aspiration over probity. He relinquished custodianship of the enterprise because he overlooked the fundamental truth that power acquired through others' patronage is fundamentally dissimilar to credibility meticulously cultivated. Regarding myself, my triumph did not stem from his downfall. My triumph originated from the moment I recollected that my inherent value had never been contingent upon another's acknowledgement. At times, the most potent form of retribution transcends the annihilation of the individual who inflicted harm. It lies in a resolute refusal to permit their decisions to dismantle the individual you were eternally destined to embody. Should this narrative strike a chord with you, I would be most eager to receive your reflections. In Emma's predicament, what course of action would you have undertaken? Would your decisions have mirrored hers, or would you have charted an alternative course? Articulate your viewpoint within the designated commentary section. And should you find yourself appreciative of narratives that delve into treachery, vindication, fortitude, and renewed opportunities, kindly contemplate becoming a subscriber and accompanying us on our ensuing exploration.